Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Our today's lecture is about biosecurity. As you can see in the title, biosecurity is a disease prevention tool and it is very important for a successful poultry farming. In this lecture, first of all, we will define biosecurity and we will discuss that what are the benefits of adopting biosecurity. We will also learn the principles of biosecurity and the components of biosecurity. We will answer how to maintain biosecurity on a farm. And lastly, we will discuss the biosecurity issues related which are relevant to Pakistan. First of all, we define biosecurity. The term biosecurity is comprised of two words, bio and security. So literally it means that the security measures on pathogens which are the disease causing organism. Biosecurity answers your question, what do we need to have to do to keep diseases from entering a poultry farm. Sometimes biosecurity is also defined as informed common sense. It means when you know through which routes the pathogens can enter onto your poultry farm and cause losses and disease, you use your common sense and adopt the measures so that the pathogens should not enter into the farm. In the literature, different definitions of biosecurity are there, but for this lecture I have put forward just one definition, that biosecurity is a set of sanitary and hygienic measures which can limit the entry and spread of the pathogens. So if we meticulously look into this definition, so one thing is very obvious, that for biosecurity we need to adopt sanitary and hygienic measures, and our goal should be to limit the entry of the pathogen so that there should be no outbreak, no losses. And at the same time, we are also responsible and we have to work, and it should be the part of the biosecurity program, that we have to prevent the spread of the pathogens. If there is an outbreak onto your farm and you throw the birds away, then this is a severe breach in biosecurity, because those dead birds, they will be eaten by the dogs and their feathers through wind may again come back to you. So biosecurity is saving your farm and saving others' farm. The two fundamental principles of biosecurity are bio-exclusion and bio-confinement. Bio-exclusion means keep germs away from your farm. So you do all your measures, do all your best that you should not have an outbreak. For that you use vaccination, in addition you go for the sanitation program and you use the disinfectants. Of course, bio-exclusion is labor and cost intensive process, and in the long run this bio-exclusion, it saves you from tremendous losses that may occur if there is an outbreak. The equally important concept or the component of the biosecurity is bio-confinement. Bio-confinement means that you do your best that you should not spread the infection into your neighborhood, into the industry. A very simple example, there is an outbreak and someone throw the dead birds or mortality on the roads or in the streets. then through the feathers you may get the infection back. And secondly, you are spreading this infection into the industry, then ultimately all the stakeholders will be at the risk, including you. So whenever you are designing a biosecurity program, then keep these two things into your mind. The bio exclusion, save yourself. Bio confinement, save others. If there is a breach, then what will happen? That there will be losses to you, the infection may come back to you, and of course once there is an infection outbreak in the industry level, through different ways, every person suffers. So here comes the benefits of biosecurity. So as I mentioned earlier, that at par, biosecurity seems to be an expensive process because you need labor, you have to buy disinfectants, maybe the machinery. But if we study the economics or the economic impact of biosecurity, then we will conclude that biosecurity is much cheaper compared to disease or the outbreak, in which in some diseases the losses occur very rapidly and there could be the mortality as high more than 90%. So biosecurity, it helps to keep out diseases, it reduces the risk of diseases and mortality, it limits the spread of the disease, it improves the overall health of the flock, and it reduces the mortality losses, and ultimately it improves the profitability. Here comes the steps or the components of biosecurity. Biosecurity has 3 steps or the components: conceptual, structural, operational. The conceptual biosecurity is relevant to distance and location of the farm. For example, someone comes to you and asks your opinion that at this location I am interested to open a control shed. Then the first thing that we have to take care of the conceptual biosecurity is the distance of this proposed farm is okay with this respect to disease risk. For example, if it is very close to a neighboring farm, less than 1 kilometer, you do all your best, but due to the location you may get the infection. Everything is okay, the underground water is not good, you will have to outsource the water. So certain biosecurity considerations, they are important while we are still at the planning stage, and this is called the conceptual biosecurity. The next step comes is the structural biosecurity. You people have decided that the location is good, its distances are appropriate, it's conceptually a good location. Now we have to take extra care in farm design. If there are certain mistakes, breaches in the farm design, which are now very negligible because now high-tech companies, they build the controlled broiler shed, but again, as an investor or poultry business management expert, we should also look after the structural biosecurity. The farm design, it should be appropriate. The third stage is the operational biosecurity. So operational biosecurity means the routine biosecurity measures that are adopted on a farm, like how you will take care of the visitors, how you will look after into the vehicles, the delivery vehicles, what procedures the vaccination crews they have to adopt. So um, see, first, the conceptual biosecurity, location and distance should be good one. Structural biosecurity, the structure of the farm design, it should be good enough. If it is, for example, not paved one, then you may feel problem in the sanitation. Operational biosecurity, that the routine biosecurity measures. And this operational biosecurity, it becomes more expensive, and of course it is very much required when you are dealing with the breeder flocks. So before we go further into details that what biosecurity measures are adopted on a farm, let's have a quick overview of the potential routes of disease transmission or potential routes of disease or the infection onto a farm. Although we have a separate lecture that have already been delivered on this topic, but here I give you an example that how this diagram you can use in planning the biosecurity. So here if you look the word the chicks, so the chicks can be the potential source of infection. Like if the breeder flock it is infected with the salmonella or the mycoplasma, the chicks you are going to buy, they can carry the bacteria or the pathogen, and there can be problem on your farm. So how we can manage this risk? Simply, we prefer to buy the chicks from the reputable company which have a good program, good control and biosecurity program about salmonella, mycoplasma and other vertically transmitted diseases. Likewise, people who enter the farm, they can carry the virus or the pathogens on their shoes, maybe on their dress or the body. So how we can manage this risk? Okay, so we don't allow any person who is not really required to visit our farm, and if they are very much required to enter into the shed, like the vaccination crew or maybe the veterinarian, then these high risk visitors, they should be managed properly. They should take the shower, they should take the change the clothes, they should change their shoes and use the shoes that are specifically there on your farm. So when you are planning a biosecurity program, you need to see that through which route the infection comes and how you have to manage these risks. So think over this diagram, brainstorm that how each risk factor or each route mentioned in diagram should be considered, or how it can be considered into your biosecurity program. Here comes the attributes what makes a good biosecurity program. It should be robust enough. It should tackle the disease risks in your area. It should be mandatory. It should be practical. Means the biosecurity program, it should be easy to practice. If it is too ambitious that you cannot practice, it is useless. It should be cost effective. If you are investing on biosecurity, there should be reduction in the disease incidence and mortalities on the farm. The biosecurity program should be part of the staff training program. So on good farms like breeder farms, the workers, they are trained that what they can do or should do you should have enough money to keep investing on biosecurity measures. If you make a food dip and you don't change its disinfectant regularly as recommended, then it means you are just happy, but nothing is going to work or should not work, and your biosecurity program should be under regular review. So any program, like whether it's a vaccination program, biosecurity program, it should be reviewed, edited, improved, and the review and updation should be a continuous phenomenon. How to maintain biosecurity on the farm? Number one comes the site security. The farm should have the wheel dip and foot dips. Then the personal hygiene for the visitors and the workers. They should have the protective clothing. They have to look after into the hand hygiene with the soap and the showering facility. Water system, disinfection of the drinking water. Aerial, fogging the house to control airborne pathogens. Litter, clean litter can be sprayed to reduce the infection. Rodent control, integrated pest management program. And for the broiler house, here you can see the term terminal disinfection program. Terminal disinfection means disinfection at the end of the flock. It's a 4-stage process, and you can see the objective of terminal disinfection is to prevent the carryover of the pathogenic organism, ensuring that each new flock or the crop gets a completely clean, fresh start. In the stage 1, we remove the equipment and go for dry cleaning. In stage 2, water system is clean and disinfected. During stage 3, there is cleaning of the building and equipment. Now it is wet cleaning. And at stage 4, we have to go for disinfection, and you will see, and there is a separate lecture. The fumigation can be used, or some commercially available terminal disinfectant sprays are available in the market that can be utilized. So this biosecurity program, it is for the people who can afford. It can be extended when it is a breeder flock or grandparent flock, and giving such suggestion to an open shed maybe not a practical idea. They can adopt few measures, but they cannot adopt all the measures. So in that situation, when the farm size, farm type is not compatible with these recommendations, we have to modify these suggestions. So in this slide, we will discuss that what are the issues that biosecurity is important, and its importance will further increase in future. Number one, we have immunosuppressive disease and agents in the field. When the bird or the flock is immunocompromised, vaccines will not be so effective. And if there is an exposure, there will be a severe disease. So immunosuppressive diseases like Gumboro and immunosuppressive agents like mycotoxins in the poultry feed are the issues which makes our flock more vulnerable to get outbreak, and therefore we need biosecurity. Number two, our birds are under stress. Although different stress are there, like very high temperature is stress, if the birds are during their production is very high, or the birds are there under their growth peak, then due to this stress they are prone to infectious diseases, and therefore we should focus on biosecurity. Field challenge is another. We have bacteria, viruses everywhere, our vehicles, visitors, everything is contaminated. So in that situation we have to worry about the biosecurity. The consumers' health concerns, they are also important. Certain, although very few diseases like Salmonella and Campylobacter, they are zoonotic one. But at the same time, there are worries, and now there is a building consumer health concerns about that poultry meat, poultry eggs should be safe. So, for the disease prevention and for prevention of the zoonotic diseases, and to reduce the incidence and the risk of the antibiotic residues and the residues of the heavy metals and mycotoxins, we need biosecurity. There are now the marketing patterns, they are changing. The farmers, they have now very narrow profit margins, and price fluctuation is one of the issue in Pakistan. So under these circumstances, the farmers, they may compromise on health of the flock. They may rear the multi-age groups, which is also not recommended. The flock density may be high. Farm density means the density of the farms in an area is also increasing. So the narrow profit margins and increasing poultry businesses, the farmers, they have started under these circumstances, have started malpractices like multi-age groups and rearing the birds much above the capacity of the farm, and these are the risk factors for which we need to shape our biosecurity program. And previously, when we had the open sheds, biosecurity was not that practicable. So the farmers, they have been only relying on the vaccination if they would work. But now with the passage of time, we see that the vaccination failure is there. The viruses, they are mutating, and therefore vaccination alone is not the option, but vaccination with good biosecurity is effective. Also, it was a common practice in previous time, and to some extent still there, that to prevent the incidence of the bacterial infections, maybe that are coming through a vertical route, the farmers, they used to do preventive medication. Like for 1 week some very good antibiotic, next week another group of antibiotics. So although medication helped, but ultimately what we get of this approach is the antibiotic resistance. So now treating an antibiotic resistance is more expensive. So immunosuppressive diseases, stress, high field challenge, growing consumer concerns, narrow profit margins, vaccination failure, and the antibiotic resistance. These are the issues which are enough for me and you to educate that now we should be giving more focus to the biosecurity program. So here I am going to, this is just glimpse of the next lecture. In the next lecture we will study in detail the different biosecurity measures that are adopted on the farm, like what is isolation, what is the importance of security fencing, what can be done to control the human trafficking on the farm. So all these biosecurity measures will be discussed one by one in the next lecture. Till then, if you have any question, you can email, WhatsApp. I am available. I will compile all of your questions, and before starting the next lecture or at the end of the next lecture, we will address your queries and questions one by one.